what is aliases? So aliases is nothing but a custom name given by you for any data type, or maybe any complex data type, or maybe any simple data type, or just a custom name you're giving. Let's start with a quick example. Let's say I'm giving id equals to, I'm giving 10. Okay, so we know it's a number, right? Okay, if we hold the cursor here, or if we can just make it number, it's a number. But when I'm saying it's an ID, so let's say for example, it's an employee ID. So instead of just mentioning number here, if you want to be more specific, it's an employee ID of, so this ID is of type employee ID. I'm not saying it's of type number, I'm saying it's of type employee ID. So I can create my own custom type for that. So for that, I need to mention type, and here I need to mention EMP ID employee. So my employee ID is a type now, which is equivalent to a number. So either I can write a number here, or I can mention this ID is of type employee ID. So this is my alias for a number. Sounds good. So this is my ID 1. Again, I want to create one more ID. So which is of type employee ID. And now I'll keep the ID 20. So this is the simple example. Let's try to understand with a more complex example with an object here. I'll just comment out this code. Uh, we want to create a type for employee. So we are creating an employee type, and if we are creating an data type called employee, so it should have an employee name and ID inside of it. So I'm mentioning EMP name should be of type string. Then it should also have EMP ID of type number. If you just compare this line with this lines, it's super simple. This is my new data type name. This is my new alias. This is my new data type, new alias. And previously we were using the data type called number. And here, this is an object data type, which is very clearly defining, like this object data type is having an employee name and employee ID. If I just want to create a new object now, let's say EMP1. So I can mention here this employee 1 is of type, sorry, is of type employed. So when I'm doing that, immediately it started saying that. So if you are saying that, please make sure to add employee name and employee ID, because when you are saying EMP1 is of type employee data type, so you must include employee name and the employee ID in it. So let's do that. Employee name, EMP ID. Perfect. So this is how we are creating a type for a more complex scenario of something like an object kind of thing here. And we are also have one more option here to do with types. That is something with union, we can say. How it will work. Again, let me just comment out this thing for you. And if you remember, previously we have created some function called display. So display, it's a function. It accepts some parameter, and it can accept a string or a number or a boolean. And the job of this particular function is to just console whatever the value we have given. So let's try to call this function a couple of times. Display 1, 2, 3. Perfect, it will work. Then display a string. This will also work. And display a boolean value. This should also work. Let's see the output. Okay, so now here we are saying display. So we are allowing to display a string, a number, or a boolean. But we are complicating this particular input data type here. So why can't we create a separate type alias for this? Yes, we can create. So what I will do here, I'll say type input. So the input can be of string, number, or boolean. So I'll say my input can be of type string or number or boolean. And from now onwards, whenever I need any input which is similar to this, instead of writing these all big things, I can just remove it and say input. So input means you can pass string, number or boolean, and it will work exactly the similar way that was working previously. Sounds good? Sure. So we'll see the next options and the next features in the TypeScript, which is more and more similar to this. But remember one thing here: whenever you're using these types, don't get confused with interfaces and the types. It might look a bit similar, but we have a separate module for the interfaces, which will give you a clear differentiation. Of course, it's a bit similar, but there are some differences that we'll see in a separate module. But for now, don't confuse with interfaces and the types.